He was suspended for 7 games earlier this month for conduct detrimental to the team, then 2 games for missing a team flight, and finally an indefinite suspension on Monday as he was set to return to face the Magic.
I don't think a middle-of-the-road team would want Jimmy Butler or should want him, because I think that in this particular instance, you know, he's proven to be a bit truculent. I'm not saying that to dismiss him or to insult him. I'm saying what he has intended to do purposefully, and in doing so, he did it against Pat Riley. That's not something that management and other places want to embrace. You know that just as well as I do. The exception is if you're knocking on the door of a championship and you believe this brother could be that tipping point to help you get overboard. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, I think it warrants consideration. If you're the Phoenix Suns, it most certainly warrants consideration. You got Kevin Durant, the great Kevin Durant, obviously the Beals, the Devin Bookers, and others. Somebody probably would have to go, but you talking about pairing Jimmy Butler with 2 of those 3 guys, meaning a Kevin Durant and either of course, because Booker ain't going nowhere. The Phoenix will never let him go. But I'm just saying, if you have Butler under those circumstances, what he would bring to that locker room, Shannon and Wendy, I don't think can be ignored. But I think here's the interesting element that has to be discussed. I'm more interested in Miami. Jimmy Butler is the latest in a line of players who have been disgruntled over contract issues and what have you, and have forced their way out of situations. We've seen this happen with James Harden. We've seen this happen with other people. That part is not new. What's interesting is Miami, because of the first-class organization that they are, their locale, it's supposed to be an attractive destination. It's one thing if Jimmy Butler departs because he says, you didn't want to pay me my money, and that's that. If it comes to a point where Jimmy Butler becomes a bit more outspoken, and dare I say, he starts complaining about a culture that we've all revered and held in high regard all of these years, and he tries to paint a different picture about the culture in Miami, then we start looking at LeBron walking out the door, even though he was never going to stay more than those 4 years. He was always planning to leave. Then we're going to look at Kevin Durant and how he didn't end up there. Then we're going to look at Damian Lillard and how he wanted to get there, but Miami couldn't get him there. And then if you hear Jimmy Butler talking about the organization, you never know how that's going to affect other dudes in the future. You're the Miami Heat. You have to think about those kind of things. Your reputation does matter. And we know Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, a future Hall of Fame coach, and everybody in between under Mickey Harrison's organization has always been A-list, first class. I know I'll vouch for them any day of the week and twice on Sundays. But nevertheless, those are going to be questions that people are going to have, and it's going to be real interesting to see what the fallout, Shannon, from the whole Jimmy Butler situation materializes into.
And I get what Jimmy says, I want my money. What Pat Riley is saying, I don't see the upside. He said, I can't give you 120, a two-year extension based on what you've done. I got to give you 120 million based on what I believe you can do. That's what a contract extension signifies, Stephen A. Wendy. I believe if I give you this money, moving forward, you're going to show the value in it. I'm not going to pay you because I've already paid you for what you've done. I've already given you a max deal. So I'm not about to give you a 2-year max extension because I believe you're on the downside of your career. I just don't like the way Jimmy has handled this. He knew what he was doing. He's just like, I don't care. Maybe they go to the PA and they contest this, and they go to arbitration, and he gets some of his money or all of his money back. But I just think Jimmy has handled this really, really poorly, and it looks bad on him. I believe it looks worse on him than it does Pat Riley. He was still getting paid, even though he didn't like. Now, he's not getting paid now because he's been suspended, conduct detrimental. But he was paying him prior to that. I just don't like the way Jimmy handled this, and this is not the way to do business.
Yeah, Shannon, here's the thing. I agree that Jimmy looks bad here, but he's getting what he wants. And I think that's the takeaway that I get. You know, a month ago, Pat Riley put out a statement and said, I'm not trading him. Now he's going to get traded.
Right.
And because he's behaved this way, and I don't endorse it, but because he's behaved this way, there are teams that want to trade for him that won't, because they know he doesn't want to come there. And if you get a player who doesn't want to come somewhere, you know, he's basically able to control where he's going in a certain way. So, like, on one hand, I agree you would never encourage someone to behave this way, but if he gets what he wants at the end of it, how can you say it wasn't worth it? And by the way, I think he will get the majority of his money back. These suspensions they're kind of ridiculous in how long they are. The Heat are just making a point. And to what you said, Stephen A., Pat Riley has done this for years. When it was time to say goodbye to Shaq, he kicked Shaq out the door. When he didn't want to pay Dwayne Wade, he kicked Dwayne Wade out the door. Even Alonzo Mourning, as tight as that relationship is, they reached the end of the road at one point. Alonzo left and had to come back. He will say goodbye to you. And look, you're in Seaport today. You're right there with Molly. I see a lot of days, Mr. Smith, where you've got a beautiful water behind you. Where are you at there? You go down there because people want to be in Florida. If Pat Riley was running the Minnesota Timberwolves, he wouldn't behave this way. He's running the Miami Heat, has for 30 years. He knows he can get people there, and he operates accordingly. And Jimmy operates accordingly, too. It's fascinating to watch.
Hold on. There's no evidence that he gets people there. Where's your evidence? The fact of the matter is,
you got Jimmy Butler there. Got LeBron there. Got Chris Bosh there.
Wait a minute. Well, first of all, we know D Wade did that. Let's get that straight right now. D Wade was the one that pulled that off. Let's understand that. I understand Riley's running the organization, but he needed D Wade to go out there and recruit for him. That's why D Wade was so bitter initially when he had to end up departing, because he knew what he had done for the organization. So we got to get that out the way. That's number one. Number two. When you talk about Pat Riley, you're absolutely right. But let's ask ourselves this question, and it's just a question. Did Pat Riley hurt himself by initially saying we're not trading you? Did he hurt himself in that regard? Because it might not have been necessary for Jimmy to get to this point if Pat Riley hadn't been dogged about, I'm not moving you. Well, wait a minute. It's one thing to say I'm not going to pay you because I don't see the upside. But then I'm not going to let you get away to anybody else either when the man is telling you he wants to leave. That's something that we got to take into consideration as well. We got to be, listen, do we all condone how Jimmy has handled this? No, but in the same breath, is he getting what he wanted? Like you said, Wendy, yes, because now Pat Riley is going to trade him. Well, if you're going to trade him now, how come you said a month ago that you wasn't going to trade him? You compelled him to act this way, to force his way out, because initially you were dogged about keeping his services in Miami, even though you were not going to pay him that extension. So again, it's going to be interesting to see who looks worse and who this ultimately is going to affect positively and negatively. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You got to be careful, guys, rewarding negative behavior. My grandpa used to always say, if a kid acts up, you don't give him candy or ice cream. You don't reward negative behavior. Jimmy Butler, and this is what he's always done. If you go look at his situation in Chicago, you go look at his situation else in Minnesota, he's always gotten rewarded for negative behavior. He's not going to stop this. He'll go to the next organization, and if he doesn't get his way, he'll buck again because he's been constantly rewarded for the negative behavior that he's displayed. Somebody need to break his plate. That's what we say in the South, Stephen A. When you want to check something or stop a bad behavior, you break his plate. Some organization needs to break Jimmy Butler's plate.